Breaking right now at 4:30, a brazen shooting a block from St. Sabina in the middle of 79th Street, leaving one person dead and a second in the hospital.
Small indications there were multiple shooters who fired dozens of shots, perhaps more than 50. Remarkably, all of those bullets missed a baby who was sitting in the car that was targeted.
Shell casings were found inside the baby's car seat. Not on the ground, not on the seat next to her. Inside the car seat where a 14-month-old girl was sitting while her mother was being shot to death 2 feet in front of her. That's where this story starts, not with the 50 rounds, not with the 3 masked gunmen who got out of a car on foot and walked up to that white sedan in the middle of the afternoon like they had nowhere else to be. Not with the fact that this happened on a Wednesday at 1:25 in the afternoon in a neighborhood where people were outside, walking past, watching. It starts with a baby in a car seat with brass casings landing in her lap, holding a lollipop, while the woman who loved her more than anything in this world took bullet after bullet in the front seat. Gabryel Ayers was 26 years old. Her family called her Gabby. Her close ones called her Gina. And on February 4, 2026, on the south side of Chicago, she was murdered in front of her child. And 3 months later, not a single person has been charged. This case deserves more than a news headline. And that's exactly why we're here.
Thank God that baby's so young, they probably won't remember this day, but the baby's going to know that their mother was killed today.
Gabryel Ayers grew up on Chicago's South Side. She was a hairstylist, the kind of person who was always doing something for somebody, always moving, always present. People who knew her describe an energy that filled the room. Her family called her Gabby or Gina depending on who you ask, and both names carry the same weight for the people who are still grieving her. Her daughter was 14 months old. A baby, really. Just starting to understand the world, the sounds, the faces, the feeling of being held. And Gabby, by every account from the people who knew her, was devoted to that little girl completely. On February 4, 2026, it was an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. Gabby was in the passenger seat of a white Chevy sedan. Her boyfriend, 27-year-old Devin Draper, was driving. Their daughter was in the back seat, strapped in properly. Her godfather Kirk Bell confirmed it later. They were on the 7900 block of South May Street in Auburn, Gresham, which sits in the shadow of one of the most well-known churches on the South Side, St. Sabina Parish, home of Father Michael Pfleger, one of the loudest anti-violence voices in Chicago for decades. That specific detail matters, because what happened next happened steps from that church's front door. Now, one thing you need to understand about this case before we get into the attack itself is the question that nobody has officially answered yet. And that question is who exactly those gunmen came for that day. Chicago police said publicly that the motive remained unclear. They haven't named a target. They haven't named suspects. But the way this attack was carried out, and we're going to walk through every detail of it, made clear to everyone watching that this was not random. The people who did this came prepared. They came with a plan. And they came with long guns. Father Pfleger said it himself 2 days later standing at that intersection.
They all had long guns. You know, it's just crazy.
The shooting happened at 79th Street in May around 1:30, just steps from Father Pfleger's St. Sabina Church. He was at the scene moments after the shots were fired.
You don't walk up to a car at a stop sign in broad daylight with long guns unless you know exactly what you're doing, and exactly who's in that car. So while we wait on investigators to answer that question officially, people online absolutely ran with their own theories. And we'll get to that. But first, the attack itself. At 1:25 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, a red Alfa Romeo was in the area of South May Street. What happened next was captured on cell phone video that spread across social media within hours. The footage showed, clearly, at least 3 people in dark clothing get out of that red car and run toward the white sedan on foot. They didn't drive by and shoot. They stopped. They got out. They ran up. And they opened fire with what witnesses and investigators described as automatic weapons. Long guns, firing directly into the vehicle. The white sedan got hit before it could get away. It accelerated and crashed into a GMC van nearby. The driver of that van wasn't hurt and refused medical treatment at the scene. And then, this is the part that witnesses couldn't stop talking about. After the crash, it didn't stop. The video shows the gunman approaching the disabled vehicle again and continuing to fire. After the car was already crashed. After it was already over. They came closer and kept going. Over 50 shell casings were recovered from the scene. Police confirmed the count based on evidence markers spread across the pavement. Aerial footage from a news helicopter taken about an hour later showed the white sedan with shattered windows and bullet holes across every panel. Gabby had been struck multiple times throughout her body. She was taken to OSF Little Company of Mary Hospital in critical condition and pronounced dead. Devin Draper was shot twice, once in the arm, once in the buttocks, and survived. He was taken to Advocate Christ Medical Center and was listed in good condition. And in the back seat, a witness who recorded the aftermath said they could see the baby crying, still holding her lollipop. Untouched. 50 rounds from automatic weapons, fired at close range into a stopped car, continued after a crash, and a 14-month-old girl didn't have a single mark on her.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
A child believed to be less than 1 year old is whisked away by a Chicago police officer Wednesday afternoon after somehow surviving this.
What's the purpose of shooting at a car and you know there's a child in the car? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it could be a lot of other people who's lost their life here today.
Alderman David Moore said it best at the vigil 2 days later.
If he didn't show that he is still God by protecting that baby, I don't know what else he could show you.
Now, those shell casings in the car seat. Let's talk about what that actually means. Because that's not a stray casing that bounced across the street. That means those weapons were being discharged at close enough range, and for long enough, that brass was physically landing inside a baby's car seat. That's not a drive-by. That's not someone firing from a moving car. That's someone standing over that vehicle and pulling the trigger, repeatedly, while a child sat right there. There are people in this world who saw that baby and kept shooting anyway. After firing those last rounds, the gunman got back into the red Alfa Romeo and left. Gone. Just like that. In the middle of the afternoon, on a street with witnesses, with people diving for cover, with cameras rolling, 3 men walked up to a car, killed a 26-year-old mother, nearly killed her boyfriend, scattered shell casings into her baby's lap, and vanished. By the time the sun went down that Wednesday, the cell phone footage was everywhere. Comment sections were flooded. People were horrified. And almost immediately, the question that investigators weren't answering publicly became the question everyone online was obsessed with. Who is this attack actually meant for? CPD confirmed 3 men were involved. Area 2 detectives were assigned. Surveillance footage from nearby buildings was being reviewed. The red Alfa Romeo was being looked at. Tip lines were open. And the public? The public was already building their own timeline. Here's what fueled the online theories. The attack was clearly targeted. You don't coordinate 3 armed men, a getaway car, and an approach on foot in the middle of a residential block without knowing something about where that white sedan was going to be. That level of planning implies someone knew Gabby and Devin's movements. It implies someone had been watching, or had been told. And when people started putting that together online, the theories started landing on Devin Draper, the person in the driver's seat who survived. Now, none of this is confirmed by police. Chicago police have said publicly they still don't know what led to the attack. But the pattern that people online kept coming back to was this. Gabby was in the passenger seat. She wasn't driving. She had no known conflicts. Every single account of who she was described a loving mother, a hairstylist, a woman who kept to herself and her people. So if the attack was targeted, and by all visible evidence it was, then who were those 3 men actually after? That question has been sitting in the air ever since.
This here is unbelievable. This young lady was a beautiful young lady with a beautiful child, and life just cut short. For what? They need to clean this city up. They need to. This gangs and the shooting and the killing is just unbelievable.
Gabryel Ayers' mother tells me her daughter worked as a hairstylist and was training to be a letter carrier. Police have not offered a motive for the shooting.
There were also rumors circulating on social media, and I want to be clear this is unverified speculation, not confirmed reporting, that someone in or connected to the car had made a social media post in the time leading up to the shooting that may have been seen as a provocation by whoever ordered the hit. The kind of online activity that, in Chicago street conflict, can escalate faster than most people realize. None of that has been confirmed by police or any verified news outlet. But it's what the comment sections on every video about this case have been talking about, and it speaks to something real. The way social media has become a tracking tool in these situations, a way for people to know where you are, who you're with, and what you're feeling about them. What police did confirm is this. the attack was deliberate. The gunmen had long guns. They got out of the car. They continued firing after the crash. And as of the day this video was made, nobody is in custody. I'm going to be honest with you. This case has been fading from the news cycle faster than it should, and that's part of what this video is about. The stories that stop getting covered are the ones that go cold. If you've been following this channel, you know I stay on these cases even when the cameras leave. Hit subscribe if you want to be here when something breaks on this one. Because with a $20,000 reward still sitting unclaimed and a community still looking for answers, something eventually will. 2 days after the shooting, on Friday, February 6th, hundreds of people gathered at the corner of 79th and May Street, the exact spot where Gabby was killed. They brought candles. They brought grief. They brought something that looked like controlled fury.
Police joined the community in a show of solidarity on the very corner where a young woman was gunned down.
I just can relate to what this family is going through, and it's very painful, and it just reminds me of that we need to get these guns off the street.
Neighborhood resident Demetric Brown knows all too well the pain of losing a child to gun violence. She lost her adult daughter in 2021. The Southsiders among a coalition of concerned who attended an outdoor roll call by officers from CPD's 6th District following the slaying of Gabryel Ayers.
Stand together, we continue to partner with one another, that you guys are willing to come forward and help us, give us information.
Investigators say the attack happened Wednesday afternoon as Ayres and a man sat in a car near 79th and May. 3 men opened fire on their vehicle, causing them to crash into a van.
I talked to her mother, and I've also committed to paying for the services for her as well, and we will be starting to arrange those over the next day.
You're going to see our guys out here in these yellow or orange jackets constantly engaging the community, putting out fires everywhere.
The brazen daylight shooting in the city's Auburn Gresham neighborhood happened near St. Sabina Church. Today, the pastor, Father Michael Flager, offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest.
Don't be silent. Don't sit back, because if you do, then you are a co-conspirator to everything that they do.
Father Michael Flager stood there and said what everyone was feeling. Think of her. Think of that baby's face. Think of that mother laying in that car dead. And I pray you don't sleep until you talk and tell what you know. Illinois State Senator Willie Preston stood at the intersection where Gabby died and said, "The people that pulled out automatic weapons on this very land that we stand on ran up broad daylight and murdered Gabryel, are monsters to me. They will be hunted down." Mayor Brandon Johnson attended the vigil. Chicago Police 6th District Commander Andre Poston held an outdoor roll call at the scene. Officers lining up in solidarity with the community right there at 79th and May, a rare public gesture meant to signal commitment. "We're here for you," Poston said. "We're out here." Pamela Bosley, co-founder of Purpose Over Pain, an organization built by parents who have lost their own children to gun violence on the South Side, stood in that crowd and said something that cuts to the core of why these cases go cold. "These are our children's lives being shot and killed. If you don't do anything about it, let me tell you, you're going to stand up with us here next. And this is not where you want to be." And then there was Kirk Bell, Gabby's godfather, a man who had to stand on a street in February, looking at the wreckage of a car that his goddaughter had been killed in, and try to make sense of it.
What's the purpose of shooting at a car when you know there's a child in the car? That doesn't make any sense.
These animals have no value on life. He's right. It doesn't make sense. But here's the thing about that. It makes sense to someone. Somewhere in Chicago right now, there are people who know exactly why that car was followed, why those 3 men got out with long guns, and why they kept firing even after it crashed. And they haven't said a word. A $20,000 reward. Multiple cameras. A public attack with witnesses all around. And silence. That's not because nobody knows anything. That's because knowing something in this neighborhood, in this situation, comes with a price. And Father Flager said it out loud too. Don't be silent. Don't sit back. Because if you do, then you are a co-conspirator to everything that they do. This detail weighs heavy in my heart, and y'all need to understand the gravity of what those monsters did. Gabby was in the passenger seat. She wasn't driving. Think about that for a second. She wasn't driving. Those men tracked that car, got out on foot, unloaded 50 rounds, and the driver walked away. She didn't. So either she was exactly who they came for, or she died for being in the wrong seat next to the wrong person. Leave your thoughts below. Not because I'm collecting opinions, but because sometimes a comment section on a case like this is the loudest thing left when the news moves on. 3 months have passed since Gabryel Ayers was killed on South May Street. The reward money is still there. The tip lines are still open. The footage still exists, the cell phone video, the surveillance angles detectives were canvassing, the aerial footage of that car sitting crashed into a van with bullet holes in every door. All of it is documented. All of it is real. And none of it has produced a single arrest. This is the part of cases like this that doesn't make the news anymore. The slow fade. The way a story that broke the internet in February gets quieter in March, quieter still in April, until it's just another unsolved case in a city that has too many of them. Chicago did see a significant drop in homicides in 2025, down from 587 the year before. City leaders pointed to that as progress. And statistically it is. But progress in the numbers doesn't reach the corner of 79th and May Street, where a 14-month-old girl is growing up without her mother, and the people who made that happen are still out there. Gabby's daughter is going to get older. She's going to ask questions. And the answer to those questions depends on whether anyone in this city decides that a $20,000 reward and a baby who survived a gunfight is worth breaking their silence over. Father Fleger put it simply, somebody needs to be held accountable. That hasn't happened yet. In the middle of a Chicago street, on a Wednesday afternoon when nothing about the day should have been remarkable, a little girl sat in a car seat with shell casings landing in her lap and a lollipop in her hand. And somehow she made it out. Her mother didn't. And somewhere in this city, the people who pulled those triggers know exactly what they did. And exactly why. The question is whether anyone who knows them will ever say so. A mother is dead, her killers are free, and her daughter is growing up without her. If that's not worth 2 seconds of your time to share, I don't know what is.